My name is Samantha Jones, and I selected to do my video presentation on my youth sports paper. The central concepts of my topic, do youth sports prepare children for life in their adult years, are community outreach and the instillment of life lessons that youth sports offer young children. Youth sports is a very common part of most American families. These families typically have 1 or 2 children who are involved in sports at a time. For my family personally, we had 3 of us that were involved in sports. You can definitely say that we kept my parents on their toes and moving throughout the week and weekends, getting us to our various sporting events on time. These sports programs are often community-based and revolve around volunteers to help keep them going for the youth in the community. It's the lessons and experiences athletes are taught at a young age in sports that help to mold them into the adults they will become. This topic is important to us because we have all had our own experiences with youth sports, whether they've been good or bad, that have in some way or shape made us the adults we are today. Take a moment and think about that. Think about the lessons and the impacts that you had when you were involved in youth sports and where they've led you today. I can personally say that the experiences that I had have definitely led me to be one of the positive outcomes of youth sports. I have found that there are negative outcomes as well. So my question is, what can we do to change this so that every child has a positive experience when it comes to playing youth sports? Within my paper, I had several points I wanted to cover and show how playing youth sports can and will impact one's adult life. When conducting research for this topic, I found several positives to being involved with youth sports. The first positive I selected to focus on was the benefits of playing youth sports. I broke this down into 3 different areas. The first, physical health. The second, mental health. And the third, social health. The second positive I focused on was the community outreach aspect within the youth sports programs. This is something that's very personal to me. With the negatives of playing youth sports, I chose to focus on the most common one first, sports injuries, aka concussions. The second negative I focused on was the unrealistic expectations and pressures that are put on young athletes from their coaches, parents, and teammates. In my personal opinion, and given my previous experiences of being involved with youth sports, both as a player and a coach, I would definitely have to say that youth sports has and continues to impact my adult life. Growing up, I had great experiences and not so great experiences when it came to playing these sports. But what I did do with these experiences was I made sure I took both the positive and negatives and learned from them. I really connected with this topic in particular because of all the values and lessons I found within the research were ones I remember having instilled in me from my coaches and local athletes. And they're all still ones that I use today. My goal when reading these articles was to find both the positive and negatives of the importance and impact of youth sports. Overall, I used my sources pretty evenly. They all had really good information that helped to support and defend my paper topic. The one article that I enjoyed the most was the 6 ways team sports will prepare your kid for the real world. In this article, the author, Kara Gilbertson, discusses the various and many life lessons athletes can potentially take away from playing sports. I connected with this article on a personal level because the points she made are ones that I utilize in my everyday life. One of the interesting facts I found within the research was the GPA of athletes compared to non-athletes. Students that were also athletes had a higher GPA than those of non-athletic students. I know that for me personally, sports helped me keep my grades up. My coaches had placed the rule, if you don't have the grades, you don't play. I wanted to play, so I did whatever possible to keep my grades up. I feel that all of the articles I researched and read were very helpful and knowledgeable and could help to lead to further studies being done on this topic. The information I researched is related to the first textbook we read in class, The Youth Sports Crisis. The connection between my topic and research comes within the first chapter of the book. Chapter 1 is broken down into 2 sections. What motivates youth sports participation, and do youth sports develop character? In my opinion, I believe that playing sports does impact your life in adulthood. Within this text, I read things I agreed with that helped my stance. But however, I read things that were negative and didn't exactly support my stance. In Chapter 5, the Youth Sports Crisis text, there was a section that discussed violence in youth sports. In reading this section, it made it seem like that all youth sports does is make athletes violent, and the goal is to injure others just to get the win. I don't believe that this is all true when it comes to youth sports. However, what I do believe is that the violence issue has to do with the types of coaches that are involved with youth sports. The future research that should be done in regards to this topic is doing several studies where youth athletes are tracked throughout their youth sports careers on into adulthood to really see if by playing these sports has had an impact on their life and their adult life. I'm only one person, but I can honestly say, yes, youth sports did have an impact on my life as an adult. I currently am a youth sports coach, and I use the lessons that my youth coaches instilled in me when I was younger to help lead these kids now. In the future, I would like to see other studies and research conducted on this topic to see if that there are other adults, like myself, whom have been positively affected by youth sports in their adulthood. I think the most important change in trend with this topic is the safety concern for youth athletes. What can we as adults and coaches do to make youth sports safer? In my research, another fact I found was the reason most children play sports is because it's fun and their friends play. I sat down and I asked my 8-year-old niece why she liked to play soccer. Her first response was, "Aunt Sammy, it's fun. I play because my friends are out there." I sat down and I asked her again, what was the least fun part about playing? When I have to sit out and I can't run and play. So why are we taking away the fun aspect for these kids? In the article, The Concussion Diaries, Zach Esther talks about his struggles with concussions and states that, "I feel like all my concussions were from him in the first place because I just wanted to impress him and feel tough. I regret all that now and I wish I never even played sports." The him being his father. Zach felt that he had to impress his father just to be able to get him to see him and had to do so well in sports. So why are we as adults and parents and coaches giving this trend to our youth athletes instead of just letting them play and having fun? I believe this project and information has helped me grow in regards of how I have looked at sports as only a positive avenue. Yes, I've had my negative experiences too, but I've always turned those into positives. I realized that's not always the case with everyone else. I was talking with a friend who, like myself, was involved in youth sports. She said that playing sports as a child has had no effect on her as an adult. I was mind blown. How could this be? After thinking about this, I realized that we all have different experiences with youth sports, and it really comes down to the people who are actively involved that leave the most impact on us athletes. When I was younger, I had 4 coaches that really left an impact on me. And ironically, some 22 years later, I still have contact with most of them. This topic has opened up my mind to when I am coaching or working with the youth to make sure that I am doing my very best to make this positive experience for them and to help them in their future adult life. For me personally, I want to be a coach and work with youth and community outreach programs. I can take both my positive and negatives found in the research as well as my experiences and make sure that I am the best version and most impactful to the youth and young athletes of our communities.